Okay, so as you guys are grabbing your warm-up, and you guys are sitting down, okay, just a quick review. So, from yesterday, okay, who can tell me what yesterday's learning target was? Jacob?
Solving one step of point.
Okay, good. So that's what our warm-up is today. Okay, so we have 4 of them up here. Probably wrote it a little bit small for you. You guys have better eyes than I do. So, guys, go ahead and copy down the first 4. Okay, we should be able to do those from yesterday. Two-step equations today. If you guys thought one-step equations were tough, we get to do two-steppers. Or if you thought one-step equations were easy, we get to do two-step. Might be a little bit more difficult for you today. The other thing I think we're going to talk about a little bit today is make sure you guys understand how to check your answers when we do these. I think a lot of times when you guys get your answers, people get in a hurry because we want to see how fast we can do our warm-up. We forget to check our answers really quick. So it's always good to go back and go step by step and check your answers too. You have good writing. Should have had you write the warm-ups. You don't even have to show your work, huh? So what happens if we get to two-step equations in there? You can't do everything in your head. You know step by step how to do them?
The two-step?
Yeah. What happens if because we might have decimals today.
True.
We might have fractions.
Yeah.
You guys love fractions and decimals.
Never.
So if you're done, you guys can go ahead and just put your pencils down just so I know you're done. Yeah. So anytime you have so maybe that's one for which there's variable. Remember we talked about that before, what's a variable? There's a letter thing when you put the number. So 2f. 2f is multiplication, so 2 times f. Okay, so and when we go through it, we'll explain too. So we also talked about inverse operation, so the opposite. Okay, inverse is the opposite. So instead of multiplication, you have to do the opposite of multiplication, which is what? Okay, division. So you're going to divide this side. Everybody finished up? Still working? Couple of you guys? Doing okay? Okay, that's what so 2f, what kind of problem is that? Okay, 2 times f. So how do we get f by itself? What do we have to do? We have to do the inverse operation or the opposite. So what are we going to have to do? So 2f is multiplication. What's the opposite of multiplication? Okay, so we're going to divide both sides by 2. Okay, so what happens to the left side when we divide it by 2? So what do you have left over on the left side? Okay, so start right here. So 2, what's 2 divided by 2? 2 divided by 2 is just 1, right? So instead of writing 1f, we can just write f, because that's the same thing. So go ahead and below it, just write f. Okay, so now what happens when you divide 14 by 2? How many times does 2 go into 14? So close. You got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. So 7 times. So f equals. Okay, perfect. Okay, so let's correct these real quick. I think most of you guys did a pretty good job. So let's look at them. So obviously these are one step. So one step means we're going to have to subtract, add, multiply, or divide one time. Okay, so remember we talked about this, so first thing I'm gonna do that helps me, that's the way I learned. Okay, we had another teacher here, Mr. Brown, that was here a long time ago, that he taught it this way as well. So, he always used, what is it, a teeter-totter? So, is that right? What happens if you get it on the teeter-totter, one side's really heavy, and you got one guy over here that's really heavy, and one guy over here that's light, what happens? It sinks, right? So you're trying to balance it out. So if we're gonna balance this problem out, okay, we break it in half. So if you do it to this side, you also have to do it to the other side, okay? So we're looking at the inverse operation, or the opposite. So we're dealing with minus 13. So what operation are we gonna use over here? So not subtraction, but addition, okay? So what are we gonna add to both sides? Okay, we're gonna add 13 to both sides, right? Okay, so that cancels out. What are we left with? P equals 25. Okay, in case you tell, you don't have to be shy, okay? So let's look at the second one. This one's a little bit more difficult, I bet. Some of you guys might have had a little bit tougher time here. So W divided by 5 equals 3. Okay, anybody look at that and you're a little bit confused right off the bat about what? Okay, so the same thing. Okay, I know it's a little different, so let's cut it in half. Okay, so this side is what? W divided by 5, obviously that's division, right? We just said division. So what are we gonna have to use to solve this one? So what's the opposite of division? So multiplication, okay? So what are we gonna multiply both sides by though? Okay, we're gonna multiply both sides by 5. So whatever's attached to the variable, right? And this one is 5, okay? So we multiply this side by 5, okay? And this side by 5, okay? 5's cancel out. What are we left with over here?
15.
We're left with W equals, what's 3 times 5? Okay, 15. It's messy up here, not to be able to read it. Now, this is another one we had a couple questions on, okay? So, it's the same principle, right? So, 2F. Okay, anytime there's a number and a variable next to each other, what kind of problem is that? Multiplication. So, what are we gonna have to use to solve it?
Division.
Division. What are we gonna divide? Are we gonna divide, both sides by what?
2.
2. Okay, so we divide the left side by 2, what does that give us? What's left over? So, 2 divided by 2 is 1, but instead of writing 1F, okay, so it's just easier for us to write F, okay? So what about the left side? 14 divided by 2 is 7, so F equals 7, okay? So the last one, okay, we've got a negative number. So these are pretty similar. Okay, so negative 4x equals 24. So we're doing the same thing, right? Okay. So multiplication here, what are we going to use to solve? Division, okay? So we're gonna divide both sides by, not 4, but negative 4, right? It's a big difference, okay? So divide both sides by negative 4, so we cancel out there, we're left with x, what does it equal? So is my answer gonna be positive or negative? Why is it gonna be negative? Negative and a positive together. So what's 24 divided by negative 4? They have that one? Negative 6. All right, perfect. Okay, so now, one of the things we're gonna talk about today is how to check my answer. So how do you check your answer? How do you know if this one's correct? What can we do? We'll just look at number 1. So what's a good way to check your answer? We're gonna have to do it. Okay, perfect. So replace P with 25. So let me write it down, I'll get out of your way. So it's 25 minus 13, 12. Is that right? Okay, so obviously we know that 25 is right. Okay. All right, good work. So let's talk a little bit about two-step equations then. Okay. So I'm going to put an example up here. Okay, and let's look at it. So which one do we want to use? I'm going to take one from the lesson today. So we've got 2x minus 8 equals 6. 2x minus 8 equals 6. Okay, so some of you guys, this is a little bit new to. You guys understand why this one would be a two-step equation? For somebody that's already done quite a bit of these, you guys understand why it's a two-step? Because you have to do two things, right? We're not just adding or subtracting, okay? So we can approach it the same way, right? So what I like to do, why do I draw my line there? Some people, I know that they teach it upside down T, right? So why do we do it like that? What's that help you do? What's that do for you? Yeah? Cuts it in half. So remember we talked about the teeter-totter? Okay, so if you do it to one side, where else do you have to do it to? To the other side, okay? So, and then the other thing I do sometimes that helps kids out is I'll underline the variable. So when I underline the variable, it kind of tells us which side we're starting on, okay? So we're gonna start on the left side, okay? We're trying to get x's by itself, all right? So what are we gonna deal with first? We're not gonna deal with that 2x. So what else do we have over here that we're dealing with? Okay? Anybody know? Drawing blanks, or am I making it tough for you to understand? Huh? -8 or -8. So how do I get rid of that? What do I have to do? The opposite, or what we talked about earlier, the inverse operation. So what's the opposite of subtraction or negative? +8. So if we do it to this side, where else do we have to do it to?
The other side.
The other side. So we're gonna add 8 to the other side. So what are we left? So this is where, remember I was talking to you about steps, and if we get to 2 steps, so we do it step by step and it helps you. So we're left with 2x equals, and what is 6 plus 8? Anybody?
14.
14, nice job. Okay? So that's the first step. So this looks a lot like our warm-up down here, right? One of the warm-up problems. It's almost, I think it's actually identical. Okay, but instead of they're using F, they're using X. So look up there. What was our next step? What was the second step of the problem?
You divide by 2 on both sides.
Okay, we're going to divide by 2 on both sides. So divide both sides by 2. We're left with x equals, what's 14 divided by 2? Obviously, no, it's 7. All right. Let's do one more example up here before I want to put you guys and let you guys partner up a little bit and see how we do. Okay. Pick one from the outside, and we'll pick another one over here from the inside. Okay. -6x minus 1 equals 35. I want you guys to write this one down on your paper. You guys can do it with me. Okay? So -6x minus 1 equals 35. Okay, so very first thing I'm going to do when I walk up and see it, we talked about this a minute ago, so I'm going to cut it in half. I like that term, we'll cut it in half. So that way we know if we're doing it over here, we're doing it over here. So I'm trying to get all my x's, or whatever the variable is, on one side of the equal sign. What do I also have over here right now that I have to move?
And -1.
-1. Remember, it's a big difference. So I'm moving the -1. What's the opposite of negative or subtract? How do I have to move it?
Positive.
Okay, so we're going to add 1 to both sides. Okay, so what are we left with on the left side over here?
-6x.
-6x equals
36.
36. Okay, I want you guys to solve that second part. I'm going to come around and check some answers and we'll see how we do. We have -6x equals 36. So, reminder, when we have because you're going to end up with a positive and a negative. Okay, when you're dividing a positive by a negative, what's your answer going to be? Negative. Okay. What happens if you're dividing a negative by a negative?